Welcome to the Entrepreneur Mind podcast, where transform your mindset from consuming to producing. I'm your host, Zen Flint.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Mind podcast. I'm your host, Zen Flint. Today I'm very happy to see very special guest joining us from New Zealand. He is author of Compendium of Business Beliefs, You Are Your Brand, twoheads.co, founder of Redefine Us, founder of seduction.org, two TED Talks, and was awarded the UK Business Speaker Year of 2011. Noam Kostucki. Thank you for joining us.
Hi Zen, how are you? I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Likewise. So Noam, what does entrepreneurship means to you?
Entrepreneurship for me is really three different things. The first one is going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. The second thing is starting things that others don't start. And the third bit is solving problems. Because I believe that every entrepreneur solves a problem that they see in the real world. That's what makes their product and service needed, and that's what makes people want to buy what they do. What makes them entrepreneurs is that they do something different. An entrepreneur is not someone who does what's already existing, because that's more going to be a manager or a director or a project manager. And then finally, it's someone who's happy to go from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm, because every entrepreneur fails. Entrepreneurship is about taking risk, taking calculated risks, and being able to overcome the things that don't work, because it's a very unpredictable business.
Noam, so you started many companies previously. And what was the most challenging part for you before you start your company? Or what's the thought process? How you get from dream to reality?
Okay, so in terms of going from dream to reality, let me take you a little bit before I started my company. The moment I realized that was when I was in my final year of high school, actually. So let me paint the picture for you. Imagine the first day of high school. Remember your first day of high school, what you looked like? I looked like some sort of, my dad calls it a retarded hippie. Long hair all the way here, a beard going in all directions, flowers in my hair, bracelets everywhere, colorful clothes. And I arrived there. First day, I received my schedules for my classes. And I realized that in my schedule for my classes, I've got from 9:30 in the morning until 5 p.m. and I've got no lunch break. No break throughout the entire day. And I went to my teacher and said, look, there's a problem with my schedule. I've got too many classes in here. And so the teacher sent me to the dean of the school, and they looked at my schedule and said, but you're registered for too many classes. Now I've got to let you know that I did actually register to too many classes. They had told me beforehand, there's only so many classes you can study. And I said, well, what if you want to study more? And to that, the answer was, you can't do it. Now that tends to be the first sign of an entrepreneur. When they hear you can't do it, they absolutely want to prove that it's possible. So that's the very first thing that I learned in starting a business, is that if something looks impossible, it tends to be a very good business idea. Because if nobody has figured out how to do it, you have a competitive advantage in starting it. So back to high school, I'm there with too many classes, and they say, well, that's your problem. You're registered for too many classes. We can't do anything because we needed to put the extra classes during your lunchtime. And to that, I discovered that I didn't know what the answer was. I didn't know what the big solution was. All I knew was that there was a problem, and I needed to find the next step. So the biggest learning for me is about knowing when the next step is. And the next step for me in that case was, okay, I need to get attention. So I got back home, talked with my parents, and with my dad, we came up with an idea. The next morning, we went to the hospital because my dad's a doctor, and we got a Baxter, like a food bag. This food bag with a little pole and wheels and stuff.
Yes, yes.
And my dad put the Baxter in my arm. He didn't put the needle. Let me warn you. Let me reassure you. He didn't put the needle, but he attached it. It looked like I was actually strapped on the Baxter. And on my T-shirt, I had written, a school lunch for good students. And so I arrived in school, and that's when I discovered about the power of public relations and branding. Which is that I arrived in school with my lunch in the plastic bag and the wheels attached in my arm, and everyone looked at me and said, what is going on? I said, well, there's no solution. They told me there's no lunch for me, so this is the solution. Every day I will come with this, and that way I have some food going on for the whole day. And actually, this is probably better than eating a regular lunch because it is well spread throughout the day. And everyone looked at me thinking, this is a little crazy. And then the teacher started to come to me, and I went through all the classes and said, wait. You can't come into class with that thing. I said, well, how else am I going to study for 1 year if I can never have a break to rest, stop, or eat? And eventually, after halfway through the day, I got asked to go to the dean's office. And the dean said, what is going on? All the teachers have told me that we need to find a solution because we can't let you come to school like that every day. And that's when I discovered about the power of building good relations. So the moment you get attention, you're allowed to create relations with the right influential people. And when you meet the right influential people, you can have good conversations. So again, I didn't know what was next. I didn't know what was the solution. But I told the guy, look, I'm happy to stay every day after school for half an hour to discuss with you and try to find a solution. And he told me there is no solution possible because we've done all this programming with the computer. And there's 400 students in the school. The computer found the best solution. I said, look, all I'm asking from you is to give me 2 weeks. I will come every day for half an hour and we can look for a solution. If we haven't found it in 2 weeks, I will, admit that you are right. And that's again the other lesson I learned. You need to ask for a specific time. You need to have targets. You need to have a goal with a deadline. And luckily enough, what happened is after 8 days of going there, we found a solution. And we managed to find a solution. We changed the classes for quite a few students in the school. And I ended up having a half an hour lunch every single day for the rest of the year, managing to eat every day. I studied all the classes I wanted to study, and everyone was happy. And so what I learned there is a few lessons. One, you don't need to know the big solution and the big picture. You only need to know what's the next step. That is the most important thing, the next step. And then you focus on a few things. One, what is the problem you're solving? 2, how do you get attention? 3, who are the influential people you need to talk to? And then 4, within one deadline, are you going to prove that there is a viable product or service? Because if you can't do it within the deadline, you need to say, sorry, this is not going to work, I need to move on. And I have applied the same philosophy in every business I started.
Fantastic. What a great story, and it really applies from your real life experience. And I think it's very important to learn from your own experiences and really pay attention and be the observer of your own life like a scientist so you can modify, change, and improve it.
I agree 100%. Learning from your own mistakes and being an observer, like you say, a scientist of your own life is extremely important.
So, what was the best business advice you ever got?
The best business advice I ever got was, with no question, by Marcus Orlovsky, a fantastic entrepreneur, who told me, I listened to him give some motivational speeches where he explained about his entrepreneurship journey and all the successes he had, and he borrowed $1 billion from a bank to rebuild Liverpool Street. Incredible stuff. And after 3 times listening to him, I said, you know, Marcus, I heard your speech 3 times. You've got so many incredible successes, but you never talked about your failures. I was like, surely you must have failed something. I can't believe that in your whole life you didn't fail any businesses. What about those? Do you have any advice about failing? And he said, I remember he paused and he thought about it for a few seconds. And he looked at me and said, if you're going to fail, fail quick. Don't waste your time on something that is going to fail. It's not a problem to fail, but don't make it last. If your failure lasts for a whole year, it's a problem. So know when you're failing and accept that you're failing quickly. So, and after that, the best talk that actually got me started in public speaking, I got invited to conferences to give a talk that I call The Success of Failure, where I was teaching people how to fail better.
So speaking of failure, what was your personal failures in your business and what you have learned from it? And can you tell us a little bit more about your success of failure?
The success of failure. My theory is that if you don't fail about 50% of what you start, you're not pushing yourself far enough. And we see that in every field, whether it's Warren Buffett's investments or the likes of Michael Jordan. The best people, and I love Michael Jordan as an example. That's who I used to refer to as my first story in the Success of Failure presentations, is that in the best year of his life, the best year of his career, he succeeded 51% of the shots. And he was the best basketball player ever. Now, if that guy only succeeds 51% of the shots, what makes everyone else think that they should succeed more than 51%? So, my personal failures, I'm just trying to think if I can have one specific example. Let me think. Let me take a few seconds there. There's not one example that actually comes to mind because I have failed multiple businesses. So my first business failed because I wasn't that interested in the topic. It was an events management company started in Singapore, and I realized I wasn't passionate about events management. Then my second company failed in Poland because I failed to build a team with me, and I failed to gather enough momentum. The third company is still running, so that one's doing great. I've had a few failures because I had to lose some business partners, and that was a very difficult thing. So, there's another business that I've had a failure because I've had to step away from the business because we had conflict with the other founder. So, if I have to summarize and think about all of these failures and combine them into one learning, it's being better with people. Learning what I want and being more clear on what I stand for, what my values are, and not compromising with that. And then learning how to communicate with people and not letting emotions overtake business decisions. And I'd like to make a little note on that one, because when I say not letting emotions overtake, I don't mean not being emotional, because I think it's very important to be emotional. So it's being in touch with the emotions, feeling what I feel, but then being able to communicate that in a rational way and in a clear manner. because my experience is that everything that works in business is about people, and everything that fails in business is about people too.
So, is it a good quality to, like, you talk about being able to communicate with people or influence or lead them? Or in which, like, how to develop those skills, and is it natural for the people? Some people advantage, right? They already a people person, and then some of them have a hard time, introverts, they don't know how to communicate. So for those people, how they can improve themselves?
Very, very good question. Communication, influence, persuasion, learning how to build relations, for me, was probably the most important things I had to learn in business. Because before I started in business, I was completely obnoxious. Uh, People always got frustrated and annoyed with me. They always told me that I wasn't communicating properly, and that they didn't understand what I was talking about. Which is a problem, because when you're running a business, you need to sell your idea, you need to sell your product, you need to sell your service, you need to communicate with service providers, with contractors, with clients. If you piss off people all the time, you're not going to be running a successful business. So I had to learn a lot of that. I can tell you how I learned it. A few very important things. A few good books to read, of which one of them it probably has to be How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Second one is going to public speaking courses and public speaking classes. If you're looking for something, I would recommend Toastmasters. Very good place to go and practice. Third one is learning about psychology and brain hacking. So understanding about the fears you have and understanding what makes people tick. So discovering about the links between emotions and actions. So if I have to start to keep it to like three things. Oh, and let me add a fourth one to that one. It's body language. Very good TED talk by Amy Cuddy on the power of body language. There's some fantastic things. So, for example, there's studies that have shown that if you strike a strong pose like this and put your hands out behind your head for 5 minutes, it changes the chemical reaction in your body. It increases your testosterone, which means that you're more confident and charismatic, and it decreases your cortisol, which means you're less stressed and worried. As opposed to if you're sitting like this for 5 minutes, that increases your level of cortisol, which means that you're more stressed, and it reduces your level of testosterone, which means that you're less charismatic and confident. So these are the four little things: how to make friends, public speaking, brain hacking and psychology, and then body language.
I think it's all useful, and I love about cognitive development, body language, psychology, and it's all breaking down to the science. You know, some people have it naturally, and just like you said, if you don't know how to do it, then you can learn it, right? Just
Exactly.
the way you pointed out. Fantastic. Can we talk a little bit more about your new startup, twoheads.com?
Yes, actually, Two Heads is a very interesting new startup for me because it's something I've not done before in this way. I'm helping set up a venture here in New York as a co-founder and taking a complete hands-off approach. So what I've done is that I've helped Ken Evans set up the business. So I helped him with building the brand, developing the concept, the service, and the overall strategy. And then I'm letting him run the business and actually seeing what he can do with it. So that's part of my new attempt to become an investor, not in cash, but in advice. Because what I've discovered is that with a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a lot of entrepreneurs who come to me for help, for training, coaching, mentoring, consultancy. And one of the big problems they have is that they don't have money to pay me. because they're startups. So how do you help a startup if they can't pay you, because then you don't make a living anymore? And so this is why now I'm trying a new model in which instead of investing cash into a business, I invest my time, my advice, my expertise, etc., and then get a share return for that investment. So we're now 3 months into the startups, and now I'm letting the baby fly on its own, and let's see what happens. It's like planting seeds in a garden. You know,
It's like
you plant the seed, you put some water, you put it under the sun, and then you've got to wait to see whether it grows.
paying forward, putting everything up front and then
Exactly.
doing all the work up front and then wait what happens. And that's the nature of entrepreneur actually. They do all the hard work up front because their idea, their imagination, their creativity will one day sprout and bring the harvest.
Exactly.
So, do you set goals and how you set them? What's your thought process?
I do set goals all the time, and I've got a few different practices for setting goals. So I like to set the first things. I always start with the big picture, and again, I can take you back to the day I dropped out of university, and that really launched me into my entrepreneurship journey, which I did something that people thought was completely crazy. I locked myself in my room for 24 hours, disconnected from everyone, didn't talk to anybody, and spent 24 hours thinking, if I can do anything in the world, if I can do anything, what would I do? And I made a long list of ideas and plans as to all the things I would want to do if I could do anything. Using questions like, what if you couldn't fail? What would I do if I couldn't fail? The day I die and someone makes a speech, my eulogy, the speech at my funeral, what do I want him to say about me? You know? If one day after I'm dead, someone decides to write a book about my life or make a film about my life, what's going to be the story? And so I spend one entire day thinking about that. And I do that, I would say, probably about once a year. Thinking, okay, what is the big picture here? Where am I going with this big thing? What excites me? And then on a shorter term basis, probably about like twice a year, I remake a list of what are all the things I enjoy doing, what are the things I don't enjoy doing. Because again, I think that this process of goal setting has got to start very internally. So what do I actually enjoy? What don't I not enjoy? And then I think about how can I do something, start a business, change my work so that I do mostly the stuff I enjoy doing and do as little of the stuff I don't enjoy doing. And the stuff I don't enjoy doing, I try to find someone else who can do it instead of me. And then the goals start to become more precise. Is that now that I've got the big pictures and what I like doing, now I start to fill the gap with the rational side of things. So now I leave the emotions on the side and I say, okay, I've got the end goal, I've got the stuff I like doing. How do I create a path? And there I try to create a few different futures. And once I've got at least three different versions of the future of I could do this or that, then I set some goals. And then I set some clear targets. And that's when I start using the time frame method, which is that I say, I'm going to publish a book within the next 1 year. And the best advice for that I got from Seth Godin, who said, you close your project, you finish your project when you run out of time or money. And that's why I put a deadline. Because I say in 1 year I publish the book. It doesn't matter how good the book is. When I reach the 1 year, I publish what I have. I decided to start to launch a website like for two heads. And we said, we're going to launch the website in 1 month. The website was launched in 1 month. Could we have made the website better? Of course we could have. But the goal was to create a website in 1 month. The goal wasn't to create the best website in the world. And that's why I think goals are very important. They need to be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bounded. So that's kind of how I break down the big goals into small goals. And then the final step for me is daily goals. So every day I make a list in the morning, what am I going to do today? And then I check at the end of the day if I've done it. And then the very geeky side of things is that I've got a big Excel sheet where every day I write every single hour of my day what I do. So for the last year and a half, I can tell you every minute of my life what I've been doing.
Wow.
Was I eating? Was I sleeping? Was I doing marketing? Was I delivering a service? Was I doing sales? Was I doing strategy, customer service, legal, accounting? And the moment you know what you do, you have power over what you do. And it's something that that probably has been best practiced by Weight Watchers. People who try to lose weight.
Yes.
That is the first thing they're taught. If you want to lose weight, what do you need to do? You need to know what you eat. And not guess and say, no, I didn't eat so much today. No, that doesn't work. You need to write down everything you eat. You measure the calories, and then you say, oh, that's a lot more than I thought it was. With business, the same thing. Every entrepreneur I talk to says, I work so hard, and I do so much. I'm like, wait, how much do you actually do? What do you actually do? And then when you ask the question, how do you divide your time? If I ask you to divide, 100% of your time, how is it divided? People look at you with big eyes like that. I don't know. I'm like, so you don't know how you spend your time? Not really. How can you achieve your goals if you don't know how you spend your time? So for me, that's the very last thing. Make sure that you measure how you spend your time and what you do with it.
Fantastic. What a great information, and it's really helpful, I think, for many listeners as well who is struggling, don't know how to set their goals, or they don't know what to do with their time, or they're not really measuring their time, because it's all about productivity, right? Being able to be productive, efficient, and have a clear picture what you want to do. Otherwise, you're just like a ship without destination, and the waves will take you wherever they want a direction, they will take you over. Fantastic.
Exactly. And then you become a machine who's just working, which is the other problem I had, and I've seen many entrepreneurs have, is that they work too much sometimes.
True.
And I know that when I started doing that, I realized I wasn't spending enough time relaxing. And so that helped me put more relaxation time throughout my day. And magic happened. The more time I put to relax, the more productive my hours were.
So, do you have a problem with procrastination, or how you deal with procrastination? I know it's a big challenge for most of the people, because they know they're supposed to do this, but they will keep postponing.
I'm a big fan of procrastination. I don't think there's anything wrong with procrastination. Let me explain you why. If you procrastinate to do something, it means that you don't really want to do it. If you don't really want to do it, why should you do it? Do something else. So the way I use procrastination is as a sort of antenna. If I see that I procrastinate in doing something, let's say that, let's try to get an example. For example, accounting. Perfect example. I was always late with my personal accounts and everything. And I thought, I need to do this accounting thing again. Oh, no, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then I would always end up doing it one day before the deadline. And it was stressful, it was annoying, and I tried to create so many different ways to stop myself from procrastinating from doing my accounting. And then I use the procrastination technique to say, actually, why do I procrastinate? Why do I not do this accounting thing? I don't like it. I don't enjoy doing it. I don't find it fun. I don't find it interesting. I don't find it intellectually stimulating. And frankly, besides the fact that I have to do it because otherwise the government will fine me money, I wouldn't do it. So why waste my time doing this? So what I decided is that I went to an accountant and I said, look, how much would it cost me to pay you for doing my accounting? They told me the price, and I made a calculation. I said, either I can spend 3 days earning money and pay the accountant to do the accounting, or I can do the accounting myself. Well, if I have to do the accounting myself, it probably takes me only half a day. But believe me, I much prefer working 3 days to pay for the accountant than for me to do accounting. So I decided that I'm not going to do accounting. And I believe that that's the same thing. If you don't want to do something and you don't do it, that is when you need to stand in front of the mirror and say, okay, Zen, why are you not doing this? Do you really want to do that? If you don't want to do it, don't make yourself feel bad. Just say, I won't do it. I'll do something else. And that's because I've experienced that when you really want to do something, and you know what I mean, right? When you really want to do something and you're really excited about a project, you wake up 10 minutes before your alarm clock, right? You don't snooze it. That's another example for me. The moment you start snoozing, tends to mean there's something wrong. If you're excited by business, if you're excited by your company, you're waking up before your alarm clock, you jump out of bed and you're like, wow, today's going to be so exciting. I want to do all of these stuff. So I think procrastination is great.
Fantastic. It's a good feedback, right? To find out if you like it or you don't like it, and then
Exactly.
and outsource
and if you procrastinate too much, look at yourself and say, maybe I'm fooling myself that I want to do this.
So, Noam, before we wrap this up, can you give us really good, tangible action that listeners can take today, right now, once this interview is over, and will bring them closer to their dreams or to their goals? Something that will encourage them to do right now as an actionable thing that will bring them closer to their goals or become better entrepreneurs.
Yes. The first one would be to go through that little goal setting journey that I've described earlier. So I would say start by doing that. Once you've done that, the second thing would be get a mentor. If you don't already have one or more than one mentor, get a mentor. If you don't know how to find a mentor, check out the new book I'm publishing, Seek to Keep, seektokeep.com. We're now releasing a beta version, so you can get a free copy and give us some feedback onto how the book works. Get a mentor, one of the most useful things you can do. And then finally, if I've got to advise one book to read, it would be for me Birth of the Chaotic Age by D. Hawk, founder of Visa.
Can
you know
you give
the
us
Visa card?
Yes. So
Yeah,
he
that's the book. Probably the best entrepreneurship book I've ever read in my life.
And one tip how to find a mentor.
One tip on how to find a mentor. Let me think about that one. First one, be clear on what you can offer your mentor. Be proactive. Reach out to them. Ask for a conversation.
Fantastic.
And that's all it is.
And Noam, if listeners want to find out more about you and what you do, can you share where we can find you?
So the best way to find everything I do is on about.me/Noam Kos, NOAMKOS. So about.me/Noam Kos. And you can message me directly from there. You can find there all my businesses, my LinkedIn profile. Great place to connect with me is LinkedIn. If you want some quick answers from me, Twitter is the fastest. And then you can also subscribe to YouTube to watch all my latest videos.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, and it was very informative, very intelligent conversation, and I'm pretty sure everybody learned a lot today. I really
Pleasure to
appreciate
be
it.
with you, Zen. Thank you very much for inviting me to spend some time with you, and I look forward to hearing from your listeners and getting some feedback, conversation. Tell me what works, what doesn't work, and I'd love to answer on the forum.
Fantastic.